here. So provocation in a positive sense, right? Let me just quickly say that throughout my 8 years as a foresight practitioner, I've had really the opportunity to lead and to participate in many strategic foresight projects with a wide range of different partners and collaborators. So I've worked with Fortune 50 companies, I've worked with governments, I've worked with NGOs, I've worked with the civil sector. I've also recently worked with multilateral development banks, actually, for development banks more broadly. And it is more or less always about helping organizations, you would say, challenge outdated beliefs and misguided assumptions about the future, and all in all to help them sort of enhance their preparedness and the decision making or the policy making that needs to take place. So Ben already showed you the futures cone, and he touched upon how we sort of need to understand the outcome space beyond just the probable outcome space. So the green, most narrow one that you saw in the futures cone. By now, I guess that all of us agree that we need to be much more comfortable in challenging the business as usual future, or the official future that some people call it, that we all, us as individuals and our organizations, we so often hold on to this. So this is why I will anchor my provocation, actually, and in the whole outset for this section about what if we acted for future generations today. And this really boils down to the, how to say this, how we approach working with the future when trying to sort of support decisions or policy making that we need to make in the present, right? So the default for most people and for most organizations is to try and sort of make sense of the future, but with the views and the perspectives from the present, right? Let's try and invert that process. Let's instead try to learn about the present through the lens of the future, in contrast to always trying to understand the future from the perspectives of the present. So hopefully you can follow me in this provocation, how we need to sort of invert how we approach thinking about the future, so that we approach the future with mental flexibility, I would say, and acknowledge the fact that things come together in complex ways, and it may create futures that are completely different from today, instead of always per default trying to approach the future with what I would say is past dependency, and sort of we risk just perpetuating past and present problems, right? And if I have the time, if I have 1 more minute here, I was actually looking in the questions that you raised in the exercise just before, and I saw this question around how near or far is the future? And it links really well into this provocation I'm trying to make here. So when does the future start? That's a huge question. And there's always this paradox around the future obviously it starts now, or the future started yesterday. We need to act, as Ben also alluded to, that we can and should do both. But in foresight, if we per default approach the future in the next sort of 3 to 5 years, or in the short-term horizon, it very easily becomes half of the things I talked about. If we then instead say that the future starts, let's say 10 years from now, 12 years from now, 15 years from now, that gives us more mental flexibility. That makes it easier for us to acknowledge the fact that the future might look completely different from today. So as Ben said, we need to be ambidextrous about this. So my provocation in a nutshell is, think about how you approach working with the future, think about your future's thinking, and try to avoid path dependency and allow for mental flexibility. I think those were the words from me. I'm going to pass it on to Katie from the Loudest Foundation for the next provocation, please.
And first, let me introduce to you, Katie.
All right, please.